Another edition of the Griffin's Coach Show. I am Sport Information Director Ben Mazzone. I'm joined today by Head Track and Field Coach Chris Buckler. Coach, how are we doing?
Good, yourself?
Good. So we're going to jump right into things. We're already in the transition to outdoor season, but before we get to the outdoor, let's talk a bit about the Polar Bear Invite, where you closed out the indoor season pretty well, I thought. Let's see, Gray Murray performed pretty well, obviously. Emily Bay, the pentathlon group, they performed very well. So what were some of your takeaways from the event?
You know, it's always hard, I think, coming out of the SLAC meet because your emotions are running so high. You know, because it's a conference meet, there's points on the line, and you come into that next week, you're really trying to get a kid closer into the national meet.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously our big hope was both Katie Gosser and Sierra Moore. And unfortunately, we didn't get into the national meet. And actually, Sierra Moore's PR would have made her an All-American if we could have got into the national meet. So we are excited about that. But, you know, coming back to Emily, you know, she's still kind of learning how to be a track athlete. Mm-hmm. You know, she has tremendous athletic ability. We've only kind of reached, you know, the tip of the surface with her, so to say. And we're getting now into the outdoor season with her, and javelin's her best event. You know, and that's one of the main events of the multi for the outdoor. So I think we'll see her continue to improve. She had 14 PRs during the indoor season, broke the freshman multi record that Katie had actually set last year. So I think, you know, she's going to have tremendous upside when we get into the bulk of the outdoor season.
And now we go down to the outdoor season where you went to Alabama for a week. First of all, that had to be nice for a week. You got out of the Midwest and go down there. I'm assuming the weather was nice. So first off, how was the trip?
You know, it was a great trip, and obviously, you know, this is the second year we've done that, and we get so much advantage from being able to do that. And I know baseball, softball, you know, they're probably in the same boat we are. You get that warm weather for one. You know, I think all week it was basically 65 to 75 degrees while we were practicing. There's a couple other teams down there as well because we use the same facility at the NAIA National Championships are held. So it's a great facility to start. They've got blocks, hurdles, everything out there, and we get a chance to finally get everybody to practice, not have distractions, get great weather. And, you know, as bad as it sounds, I wish our spring break was 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, the things we could accomplish would be tremendous. And our kids get a great chance to bond. And I think that's, you know, yes, there's some time to be on the beach and, you know, we do mini golf and some of those things where we get to really have some fun. And I think our kids really enjoy it.
And you went ahead and did the Birmingham Southern Invite, your first outdoor meet. Obviously, there's going to be some type of transition. You're doing indoor season, you go right into your first outdoor. So kind of a learning experience for everybody, what's working, what's not. Going into it, what were your expectations, if you had any, and what were some of your takeaways from it?
Yeah, with the first outdoor meet, really it's just kind of getting out of the gate because a lot of the events do change. You know, I think it's hard for someone maybe is not what I would call a track aficionado to understand the indoor track and outdoor track are completely different. You know, yes, there's hurdles, but you're talking 60 hurdles versus the 400. You know, you have the weight throw versus the hammer. You have javelin outdoors, you don't indoors. And so really they are two separate sports, even though some of the concepts are the same. So for some of our kids, especially our young kids, hey, let's get some of the rust out for something we haven't done, you know, in a while. You know, some of like the javelin stuff we hadn't really been working on since the fall. You know, and it's a good chance for our kids to kind of get out and stretch their legs, get some of that fresh air. It sounds bad. Sometimes after indoor, you get, you know, a little stuffy by the end of the season.
And going back to Emily Bay, you brought her up, and she PR'd in the hammer, I believe, down the Birmingham Southern Invite, and I believe she almost got it in the javelin. And overall, like you said, she's had 14 PRs. It's been a quiet, I mean, she's really hit all these PRs, but it's been like a quiet, oh my gosh, you don't even realize that she's hit 14 PRs. So what are your expectations for her, and what has she meant to the program as you go towards the outdoor season? I was talking to Coach Madison before you got here. He was saying that we got to get her ready for the multi and doing 7 events. And I was like, holy cow, I can't even imagine doing 7 events. But it seems like you guys have some high expectations for Emily.
Yeah, we do. And javelin, like we said, is her best event. And she almost hit a PR, and that was in a torrential downpour. You know, sometimes the stat sheets don't always show what the conditions were. It was 65 and sunny until we got to the javelin. And literally, it was a complete downpour. You can see, and javelin's one of those you don't want to be throwing in high humidity. Well, obviously, if it's raining, you got pretty good humidity. So I think she's going to be well over 30. Obviously, the expectations, we've had the conference champ in the javelin on the women's side the last 2 years. So she's kind of the next one up approach. You know, we talk about the New England Patriots a lot about, you know, it's do your job, the next one up. For her, she's the next one up. And she knows that, you know, her expectation is to win the conference in the jab, but also really to kind of take it to the next level and kind of push that national market and try to get that first athlete in Fontbonne history to compete for a national championship.
Well, that's just exciting expectations for her. So now, second year off this week, which would be a nice little break for everybody. You just mentioned that you've got a change in the schedule for next week. So talk a little bit about that. And going into outdoor season, I'm always curious. There's going to be more events, like you said. You got the javelin and a few other ones of the high jump. Or is there a difference maybe in high jump? And
I mean, it's a little bit different just because you don't have wind and some of those things
Yeah.
that you're having to deal with during indoor.
But with the practices and the training, does your strategy kind of change? Do you got certain athletes that you want to focus on in specific events? Do you sometimes, maybe in these early events before you get to the SLAC outdoor meet, do you throw in maybe a couple ones here or there in a different event to see maybe they have a strength area you don't know about, just to try things out? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. What is your strategy when you go into outdoor season? How do you prepare these athletes for it, and do you kind of play little games with, I'll put you here, something like that?
Yeah, we do a little bit of that. For example, we talk about our multis, they have 7 events. So what we try to do with those kids is we focus on those 7 events, and then they generally have one other event they're a specialty in. So for like Katie Gosser, she's a 400-meter hurdler. For Colleen, she's a pole vaulter. For Emily, it's the hammer throw. For Jayla, it's going to be the triple jump.
Yeah.
So they all kind of have those 7, and we really focus on those. We don't do them every week.
Right.
Like you said, schedule change. We originally were going to head to the University of Arkansas next week because of the multi. Unfortunately, they're not going to host the multi, so we're now going to Montevallo back to Alabama because it's so hard. Next week, there's 4 schools in the country with a multi. So it's, all right, do we go San Antonio, South Carolina, Alabama? And that's the hard thing about the multi. And, hopefully once we have a facility, we'll host a multi, which will alleviate that. With our other kids, especially the freshmen, we try to experiment a little bit with them. Because you definitely don't know how they're going to respond to some of the training. It's a big difference for some of those kids that come in the freshman year. This would be their first or second week of high school practice. They've already had 7 or 8 meets under their belt at this point. So how do we get through some of the, what I call that freshman wall that they kind of hit at this point, where you see some of the numbers fall down because the fatigue is set in.
Right.
I think that's the thing that helps with spring break. You get out in that sunshine and get some of that vitamin D back in your system, and you just got to feel better about yourself, whether your body's good or not. And so we will experiment a little bit. You have a lot more 2-day meets outdoor season, so it's a little bit more travel. A lot of times we're traveling on Thursday to stay overnight, Thursday, Friday, come back on Sunday. We could split some money up and have 2 events on Friday and maybe 2 events or 3 events on Saturday. It allows us to kind of spread that schedule out, so it's not like indoor where we're really kind of a tight schedule and jamming a lot of events in.
So next weekend, the Montevallo will be a 2-day event, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, Coach, thanks for coming on today. Enjoy the weekend off, and we will be back in action next Friday and Saturday at the Montevallo Invite in Alabama, correct? Correct. So you can follow a full recap of that on FontbonneGriffins.com. You can also follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages.